This is another video where I'm going to go through a composite volume. A cylindrical hole is drilled through a block. Find the volume of the remaining solid. In the last video, I showed you what happened when you put a cylinder on top of a prism, and then you found the overall volume. But things are kind of changing a little bit here. We are now removing a cylinder from a solid. We're drilling a hole through it, and we're actually removing some of the space. We are getting rid of some of its volume. That will change how we view things in a little bit. So you'll follow along with me when we get to that point, and things will take a turn. Let's first find the volume of each piece. We have a prism, and then we have a cylinder that's being drilled through it. So let's find the volume of this cylinder. Well, the volume of the cylinder is pi times the radius squared times the height. In this example, it tells us that the radius is 1. So pi times radius is 1. So 1 squared times, now wait, I don't quite see the height. Well, you do have to kind of think about this a little bit. It goes through the entire part of this circle, of the prism, right? The cylinder goes all the way through from this side to this side. So if you could three-dimensionally view this in your mind, it starts here and then it goes all the way to the end. So the actual height of this shape is the same as the width of the prism. The height is also 3. If I follow this out, this is going to be the exact same length as this distance here. You can visually see these are kind of, the same distance essentially. So I'm going to do pi times 1 squared times 3, and that will be my volume here. So again, I'm going to leave my answer in terms of pi. So 1 squared times 3, that just gives me 3. So the volume here is 3 pi centimeters cubed. Again, cubic units. Now let's find the volume of the prism. So I need to now look at only the prism's measurements, which we mentioned. We need to look at the length and the width and the height. So things can be kind of moved around, right? The length here is 6. It's this entire distance here. So 6 times the width, which we said was 3. It's this dimension here. And then we have a height of 4. So 6 times 3 times 4. Let's go ahead and calculate that out. 6 times 3 times 4. 72. The volume is 72 centimeters cubed. Here's where we get into the fun business. What do I do with these two volumes? What do I have to do? Do I add them like I did the last problem? Doesn't quite make sense this time. We're removing the cylinder from the prism. Let me say that one more time a little bit slower. We're removing the cylinder from the prism. In other words, we're subtracting the cylinder from the prism. Now, even though I said cylinder and then prism, I said from the prism. So we're going to start with the prism and then subtract the cylinder. If you think about this in a timeline, right? You had this prism, and then you drilled a hole through it, and then you removed some of its volume, and then you ended up with your new shape. So here we're starting with the prism, we're removing the cylinder, and that's going to give us our new volume. So I'm going to take 72 and subtract 3, and I got to find the pi button, which is down here. Let's round this to 2 decimal places. We'll do 62.5. And this 7 rounds up to an 8 because its neighbor's a 5. So I'm going to do 62.58. 62.58 centimeters cubed. This should make sense. The volume here, 62.58, is less than 72. We did remove volume. That should make sense. The prism overall was bigger, and then we removed part of it. That's why we had this subtraction, and that's why our final volume is less than what we started. That should make sense because we're removing something. So now you've seen 2 ways to do composites. You can either combine shapes, or you can actually remove shapes out of already existing 3D solids and create a whole new shape, a whole new volume. It is totally something that happens all the time, especially if you're doing anything in construction or carpentry or architecture. It is a very, very common thing.